In the NFL, in most cases, high morale is good, but in movies, overconfidence usually ends in shambles. In the 2003 NFL playoffs, what one NFL quarterback said definitely meant that movies had read into reality.
What do you call?
I'd like to call heads.
Heads is called.
Look at him, he's laughing.
Heads! Seattle has won the toss.
We want a ball, we're going to score.
Turn around.
Oh boy. How about that from Matt?
Seattle's won the toss. We'll receive.
On January 4th, 2004, the 10-6 Seattle Seahawks visited the 10-6 Green Bay Packers in the wild card round. Pro Bowlers Matt Hasselbeck and Shaun Alexander led the Seahawks. One of them was expected to be a leading presence in the fight for NFL supremacy in 2003, but one was not. Shaun Alexander had been in the league for 3 years prior to 2003 and had collected 2,806 rushing yards and 32 touchdowns. And after that season, it's not like he regressed. In fact, he would go on to have one of the greatest single seasons for a running back of all time. In 2005, he finished with 1,880 yards and 27 rushing touchdowns and won the MVP. Also, he actually tied the rushing touchdowns in a season mark with Priest Holmes, who had set it in 2003. But since LT had to exist, he became second on that list. As for the other side of the spectrum, Matt Hasselbeck was going nowhere in his first 4 seasons in the NFL. He had not even started a game until 2001. His first 2 seasons, 1999 and 2000, he went 13 of 29 for 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2001 and 2002, he was mostly the starter, starting 68% of the Seahawks games. But the problem was that he was just average, posting a 10-12 record with 5,098 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 18 picks. Back to 2003. Along with good skill possession players like Darrell Jackson, Bobby Engram, and Atula Mealy, and on defense with players like Chad Brown, Chike Okafor, and Anthony Sims and Reggie Tung, the Seahawks were ready to make noise. And early on, they did. Through Week 8, the Seahawks were riding high at 5-2. But for the Packers, it was a different story. Through the first 8 weeks, the Packers were wildly underachieving at 3-4. Many people expected the Packers to be at the top of the NFC after 2 stellar seasons, in which they went 12-4 in both of them. Through Week 8, their offense was deadly, scoring 200 total points and averaging 28.5 points per game. But their Achilles heel was their defense during shootouts. And although they had a plus 34-point differential, they would enter a lot of shootouts, and most times their defense would be to blame. Their defense would pick up some slack after the bye week, though. Before the bye week, they had allowed 23.7 points per game, and after, it was 15.6 points per game. They finished 10-6, claiming the NFC North after the 9-6 Vikings got miracled on by the 3-12 Cardinals. Brett Favre had a typical Brett Favre season. Tons of touchdowns, but tons of interceptions. With 32 touchdowns to 21 interceptions. And it probably helped that Amon Green, who was the running back, rushed for 1,883 yards and 15 touchdowns. They went into the wildcard game against a team whom they had already played, in which it was an old-fashioned blowout 35-13 in Green Bay's favor. Most people counted out the Seahawks, considering the fact they had not won a playoff game in 19 years. Onto the game. It was a frigid day, 21 degrees, but 6 due to wind chill. The Seahawks would draw first blood after waltzing 57 yards down the field before being halted inside field goal range. 3-0 Seahawks. Packers would then come back with their own field goal to tie it at 3. The Seahawks would then take another field goal, 6-3 in the favor of the Seahawks. The Packers scored a touchdown to make it 10-6. With 51 seconds left in the half, Green Bay would put themselves up 13-6. Shaun Alexander bruises into the end zone to tie the game 13-13 in the third quarter. With just under 2 minutes left in the third, Shaun Alexander got in to make it 20-13 Seahawks. With just over 10 minutes to go in the fourth, Amon Green would tie it again, this time at 20. Amon Green would get in yet again, this time taking the lead 27-20. Shaun Alexander would punch it in to tie it yet again, this time at 27. But there was still time left on the clock for Brett Favre, specifically 51 seconds. Favre would lead Green Bay to the Seattle 30-yard line, But in the biting cold, Packers kicker Ryan Longwell couldn't hit a 47-yard field goal with 5 seconds left. And just like that, they entered sudden death. And when the coin landed on heads, Matt Hasselbeck got extremely cocky. But the Seahawks couldn't convert on 3rd down and 9, so they had to punt. They ended up getting the ball back after Green Bay failed to convert on 3rd down and 10. And then, from their own 46-yard line, a 3rd down and 10 loomed over them like a giant. Hasselbeck threw it to Jeff Bannister, who would run a curl route. And when he turned around, the pass was jumped by Al Harris and returned 52 yards for the game-winning pick 6. That would send the Packers to Philadelphia. But when the Packers went to Philadelphia, they decided to give up a desperation 4th down and 26 to the Eagles. At the end of the day, lesson: don't be like Matt Hasselbeck and be overconfident.